Hey everyone, how are you doing? And welcome to a little preview of my Modular Ink HUD asset pack. In this video, I'm going to show you real quick, the functionalities and all the features of this pack. And later on, I will also show you a little tutorial how to actually use it. Okay, so let's go right into it. Play full screen. So as you can see here, everything on screen is a HUD. And just so you know, everything in this HUD is driven solely by a simple interface that you integrate into your main character. And from there on, you can change everything in this HUD, like the colors and the values and the icons, without needing to actually cast to the widget or anything like this. Everything is taken care of with a simple interface. Okay, so as you can see here, I also added some components where you can place widgets on any actor, and they follow and they turn to you, and as you can see, they have a little curve to it, and the whole and we have also this here that it appears and stuff like this. And as you can see, the whole design of this HUD is a little bit like ink style, like you see in many anime games like Naruto or Bleach. But it's toned down enough that you can basically use it in any kind of game without being too obnoxious to the eye, right? And we also, as you can see in the top left, we have a minimap totally working, and we have a component called point of interest component that you can also add to any character or any actor or whatsoever, and then that will show up on the minimap. And we have two kinds. We have the one that pops up only when you're in range, and we have one that always is visible, and if it's out of range it will stick to the edges of the minimap. And now if I start again, and you can check here the values of the status bars and the widgets of the and the ability icons, they switch, and that's all driven by the interface inside the character, but I show you that later in the tutorial. Okay, so this is basically a little demonstration about every features you get. Also a little notification widget there. It's also can simply be called just inside the character or any other actor whatsoever. And yeah, it's really cool. You can also change the colors of these widgets depending, for example, of rarity of objects or stuff like that. Okay, so let's go and show you how to actually use it. Now that you know basically what this pack is about and then how it looks and how it integrates, as you remember, I told you that everything in this package, every HUD, is basically driven by a simple interface that you add to your character. And for those of you who don't know what's an interface and have never worked with it before, you can understand it like a central hub that sends out variables and stuff to other blueprints without needing to cast it. That makes it a lot more cheap and more direct. Okay. And I used that method basically to create a central hub inside the character that drives the whole HUD interface without needing to do that yourself and then go in to the widget and cast it there and stuff like that. So this is a lot more cleaner and easier. This is just a simple the simple standard character that comes with a third-person template, and all I did, I added the interface. So to add an interface, you need to go to the character, and then you go class settings here, and you have find interfaces. You see here is already HUD interface. Normally it's not there. You need to do add, and then you search just HUD interface, but because it's already here, we cannot find it yet. Okay. It's already implemented. And then to kind of like target it, what you need to do, you go to the left, you go to the graphs, and as you can see here should now be an interface. You drop this down, and as you can see here, we have all kinds of values like health, shield, stamina, icons, master HUD, ammo, and this is basically where you plug in your variables to target the variables in the widget. Okay, So let's take a look at it. We just double click on health. And as you can see here, we have current health and we have max health. And as you know, that's basically a standard way to kind of keep track of your health, right? So, and in the widget itself, we will calculate a percentage that then makes the status bar go to a certain position. And this works the same with shield and stamina. It's always just percentage based for the status bar. Then we have ability icons. And ability icons, I'm going to show you that also in a second. Basically, they work with an array. And as you can see here, you have ability icons and you can just drag it out. Normally it would look something like this. So if you open it up the first time, it's just this, okay? So bring this back. I'll bring it back. Sorry. Okay, so what you need to do to get this array is basically drag out here and you say just simple make array, right? And here you have pinned, so because it's integer based, it doesn't start at 1, but it starts at 0. So you basically always have to think, okay, if this is a 2, it's basically ability 3. It's +1, but what you can also do is you can just skip 0 and then start with 1 as ability 1. And what you can do, as you can see here, connect this again, I just drag it out and I say make slate brush, the same as before. Instead of array, we make slate brush, and here you can set up everything you need for your icon, but everything you actually need to do is just simply drag out image and make it a variable. So whenever the ability changes for the character, you simply have to change the variable for the icon, and it will automatically update in the HUD. Or you can also, if you know it will never change, you can simply plug it in directly here. So now let's take a look why we make this with an array. Okay, so to do that, what we're going to do is we go to Modular HUD, to our main folder, and we go to Widgets, and we go to a master HUD. I will explain a little bit more about this in a second, but what we want to do is here you see the ability icons, right? The ability widgets. What you need to do is you select one, and if you go here, we have certain variables exposed. We have icon input. You don't need to worry about that because you set it in the character. What you need to worry about is two things. First is the ability number. So here you say it's ability 1. So here's basically ability 0, which is ability 1, or you say ability 1 and you start, or ability 1 is ability 1, however you prefer. And then you can say hotkey. At the moment it's 1, it's 2, 3, 4. Don't worry if it doesn't update here, that's totally normal because it's variable driven. And then you say this ability number, if this is 1, right, or basically we put it back to 0, so that's easier to understand. So it's 0 now. We go to our character and we have here a 0. So everything I plug in here now will target this widget. And this is widget 1. And this is 3, and this is 4, and you just repeat it. So here's 1, here's 2, and here's 3, and that way you target the same widget type with different variables. Okay. And then if we go back to the character, we have the same thing with ammo. It's exactly the same thing, a bit more complicated and a bit bigger. So you have here these nodes, and you always drag out, just make array. Here, make array. And then we have here weapon name, current ammo, like how much is in the magazine, then how much can the magazine hold as maximum, then how much magazines you have left. And we have a weapon rarity, which is basically just a color. And as you can see here, all these are hard coded in, but you can always, of course, drag it out and make a variable. Make a variable, and then you can always change it dynamically depending on what weapon you picked up or something like this. And the same thing goes basically for camera. You just plug in your camera HUD. When we first begin play, we always add the master HUD to our viewport, right? And you just take this HUD and you set it as a variable and you plug it in as master HUD. because the minimap will need this variable to kind of know where it's located. And then we have the minimap, which basically says dimensions, how big is the map itself, how fast we zoom in, and what text we use. But about the minimap, I will make a separate tutorial about the minimap to show you how to use it and how to implement your own maps and stuff like this, because it's a bit more complicated instead, unlike the other widgets. Okay, so now that we kind of know how the interface works, let's jump to our master HUD. Okay, so now we finally come to the fun part, and that is building the HUD and the interface itself. Okay, and you find that in widgets, and as you can see, the first widget you find here is the master HUD, and this is basically the widget that collects every other widget is that you want to show up in your character's face. Yeah, and basically this is just a demonstration how it could look. You can go on and delete everything except the minimap. That's important. You delete it here. Compile this, and just to show you now, as you can see here, only the minimap shows up. And now here's one important thing. Every widget I have given you in this modules folder, we come to that in a second, is totally independent of this HUD. So you can put them in every widget you want and they will work, with the exception of the minimap. The minimap is a bit more tricky because it needs to know where it is and has some references and stuff like that. But in the tutorial about the minimap, I will show you how to change it to another widget, master widget that you might use. But in general, I would recommend you to use this master HUD, because then everything will work as intended, no matter what, no questions asked. Okay, and in general, this master HUD is really just an empty widget. Just like as you can see, there's nothing in the graph editor. It's just empty. And now we can start maybe building it up. Okay, so we search maybe ammo. We search in here, say ammo, and another one, and we anchor them to the corner. I would always recommend anchor them to the corner that is closest to them. Okay, and then we change the slot. Maybe this is slot 0 and this is 1. So basically weapon 1 and weapon 2. And then we want maybe a status bar. Let's take the shape one. Let's go in here, and maybe a second one here. Again, maybe anchor them to the corner or to the middle of the screen. We just anchor them here. That's just so that if the screen size is different for a player, it will kind of stay how you intended it to be. Okay, now we go in here and we change maybe the color. And at the moment, I will show you later how to change it. At the moment, all these status bars, they use the values of health from your character. But later I show you how to change that change it to like your values that you want them to display. Okay, but for now we just save this and we go in here, and as you can see here, everything still works by just drag and dropping the widget inside the master HUD. Okay, and this this is important. This error comes up after we deleted everything from the master HUD, because we cast something. Let me show you this real quick. If we go into our character, so this has nothing to do with the HUD itself. It's just that here at begin play, to test it, I sent something to the notification, and here it references from the main HUD the notification. And because the notification is no longer there, it will show an error. So we can just delete the notification and the function, because we have no notification inside our widget. And now if we play here and we stop, there are no longer any errors. Okay, that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so as you can see, it's as simple as that. Every widget you want, you can just search in here in the palette and drop it in here and it works. Okay, Now let's go actually take a look at the modules. So we have HUD dependent, which is just important for the minimap. I don't go into that yet. Then we have edited widgets. It's empty. I just created this folder because I personally think it's good to copy one of the base HUDs if you want to make changes, and then put them in that folder just so you know what's the original and what's mine in case you made a mistake or something like that. Okay. And also important now, everything in here is you basically never need to touch it, with exception of course, the status bar and the status shape bar, because there you need to plug in. If I show you real quick, but I show you in a second as well. If you go to graph, you have here health. So it uses the health values to calculate the status bar. And if you drag out here and search for stamina or whatever, you can change these in here and then it displays the correct values. But apart from that, all the other ones here, you don't need to touch them except you want to change the appearance. Okay, so in case, for example, ammo, as you can see here, the Rarity Color is this sloppy paintbrush, right? So we go here, Rarity Color. Here you can see the brush that is used, but maybe you say you want something a bit more clean. So you change the texture from text bar 3 to maybe text bar 2, right? You can see here it's a bit more cleaner. And if I go in here now, as you can see here, the color underneath is a lot cleaner. I can go back and show you. If I use the original one, that was 3, and now I start, and here it's a bit more messy. So that's a way to kind of like create a few more variations in the widgets or whatever. But in general, you never really need to touch these here, except of course the status bar, but I'll show you that in a second, how you can change that. And utility here, it's basically just this detail here, but we come to that later. Okay, now let's say you have implemented here some status bars, right? And maybe they are not stamina or not health, or they're not a shield. Maybe there's something like, I don't know, like energy, okay? Maybe your character has something like energy levels. So what you want to do, and you want to add this, right? What you're going to do now is you kind of like change a bit the interface. As you can see here, we have, if we double click on the interface, you see here we have all these things where we can plug stuff in from the character itself. All you basically need to do is basically add a function here at the right, and you call this now energy. You drag this in here so it's all neat inside this category, and now we have energy. And now you can simply look like, okay, here's health. So what is in health? So it's a float 2 times, and it's current health and max health. So you go in here, you add 2 parameters, make both a float, and then you simply say here current energy, and here you say max energy. Okay, you save this, and now if we go to our character, so here, inside here, and we go now to our interface, as you can see here, somewhere should be energy. Here's energy, and here's energy, and now let's plug something in. I just use now the health values, okay? So max health, and just because I don't have energy variables right here. So I just plug this in, right? And now what we go to status bar shape, and now we delete all this, and now we go just drag it out here, and energy and message. Okay, you just search for the name with interface here. You just search always for the name, right? So health, stamina, energy. And now shape here, and we plug this in. So here and here, and you always subtract the small one from the big one, right? And here it's also, you see here it's like translated basically to percentages between 1 and 0, because between 0 and 1 like this. And now we save this, and now as you can see here, it still works and this has energy. And to prove this, what we're gonna do is we go into our character here, we go to health, and we delete it here so nothing is plugged in there. So also here we can check shield, nothing plugged in, stamina, nothing plugged in, energy plugged in. And now we say, okay, we have maybe 200 is the max energy, and at the moment we have 80, so a little bit under 50%, right? So what we're gonna do, go here, and now one more thing, as you can see here, if we go to test this out, I subtracted here some health, right? So it starts with 80, so a little bit under 20%, 50%, and then after a few seconds it will get minus 25, okay? So it should be at the half. So we start now, it should be here, going to about half. Yes, here, and here it goes down, okay? So as you can see, it's so simple to kind of like add these things. And of course, because I have only one shape bar on the widget, what you would want to do is you go here to shape bar, you just copy it, duplicate, and you call this maybe energy. And then you maybe copy this, duplicate it, and you make another one for health, and like this you kind of build up your library. And this now I would basically put into into the edited widgets folder, so you always know, okay, I have the base ones that are set up correctly here, and if you ever make a mistake or change something and it didn't work, you can always go back and see it here. And now we can simply go in here and put them into the master HUD. So if we search now energy, as you can see here, we have shape, status bar, energy, and we can simply drag it in here. And here we can also set the color, so we can maybe energy something like greenish here, like this, right? We save this. And now if we go here, here's the energy bar and it's green. That's how simple it is to change stuff up. Okay, now let's take a look at the other components that come with this HUD, okay? First thing we want to do is we go to Modular HUD, then we go to Utility, and we start with the in-world widgets. And these two are basically these two, right? There's a small one and the detailed one that you can use for messages to the player, or like infos for the item you have, or like it can also be something like press F for interact or something like that. And I'm going to show you how to add these to an actor and how to set them up like what they're displaying. Okay, so what we're going to do first, we're going to go to cube. We create a cube, so actor, here we say this tutorial widget, whatever. We open this up and we add a cube, right? And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a widget. And let's take this, as you just go to add component, type in widget, and you can see here info detailed and small, and we just added. And as you can see here, it's right beneath the cube. And now we can just position it. Oh, that's not good. Let's just use here Z, and it faces down, but that's no problem at the moment, because what we're going to do next is we're going to set it up. And now if you select it here in the outliner, what you see here is you have certain values that you can change. First one being the text, so what should be written on it. So let's say interact, okay? Next is maybe the icon that we want to display there. And let's maybe say we show there a key. So we search for a key icon. I didn't say that in the textures. Oh, there's also a folder with icons. So there's a few pre-made icons you already have. And they also have a certain ink style, but very subtle. And now you can say, does it want to have a tint? So we make it maybe very, I don't know, orange or something. Okay, and then you can say Rarity Color, which is basically the extra color that you have like underneath the text. You will see it in a moment. We make it blue, so you can actually, we make it some pinkish kind of style here, so you can see and distinguish what is gonna be tinted. And then we have two things here. We have is always visible, which basically means what it says, it's always visible. If you tick this off, you can do something like it appears when the player comes closer and then disappears if he goes away. If you want to implement something like this, you should tick this off. If you want the widget to always be visible, you simply say is always visible. Okay. Then rotate to player is exactly what it says. If it's ticked on, it will always rotate to the player. And what's important, you will see that in a second, it will always rotate to the player pawn, so to the actual mesh of the player, not to the camera. And we leave that on. And now everything we need to do is we compile and save this. And now what we do is we simply drag this into the world, right? And what I didn't say, of course, you can also make it smaller or bigger. Okay, but obviously. And now we start play, and as you can see here, the widget is there. And as you can see here, the key we had is now a little bit orangey, and the rarity color is basically the stripe underneath, and that's like kind of like pinkish, and it will always rotate to the player pawn. And as you can see here, it always rotates to him. Right, so that's something. And as an example, what if you say is not visible, we can go into this one right here. We open up the blueprint, and as you can see, all we did here was on component overlap and end overlap. And all I did was check, it's a player, and then I say open, because these two widgets, the info detailed and the info small, if you drag them out, you can find the event open. That's basically the reveal of the widget, and close is basically it goes away. Okay, as you can see here, if I end the overlap, I close, and if I start the overlap, I say open. And now this is this one here, and let's see what happens if I walk in. So as you can see here, I walk in, the reveal comes, and it goes away, right? Simple as that. So it's very versatile, and it looks nice because it doesn't just pop up. It kind of has a certain build up that looks a little bit like it's drawn onto the screen there. And also another thing, you can see it's always a little bit curved, right? You can also control that. If we go here in our tutorial widget, what we just created, here is something called curve widget, min 1. So it needs at least 1, but if you put it to 1, what will happen if we go now in here? As you can see, the widget is now straight. It has no curve anymore. And if you go back, and you can maybe make it like 45, compile, and now we go back. As you can see, it has like a slight curvature. So you can control how curved this widget is in the world. Okay. So, and now we go to the last component I have added for you. You find it in the Minimap under utility. And this is called the comp point of interest. And this is exactly what it says. If we start play, you see in the Minimap, we have here this red arrow key in the top left corner. Let's make it full screen. And here we have the orange key. And as you can see, as I said that in the preview already, we have two types. One that kind of like disappears when you're out of range, and one that is always showing the direction you have to go to get there. And it will always stick to basically the edge of the minimap until you get close enough. Okay, and let's show you how to implement this. So for that, we also take the tutorial widget, and all we need to do now is we go to add component and search for point of interest here, comp point of interest. We add this, and it's basically done. What we have to do now is we go here to the right, and we have three options. First one is a tint. So if you want to tint whatever icon you have, you're gonna tint it, right? And here visible on edge is basically the same thing we had up there. If you say visible on edge, it will always show at the edge of the minimap. If you tick it off, it will not. Okay. And here's another important thing. Here you can see icon. We don't have anything in here. If I just leave it like this, and now we start this, as you can see here, it will have like a red throbber. So with will always blink like with a red dot that there is something. So you can just simply add a point of interest, and it will still, even if you don't add an icon, this is basically the default icon for the point of interest. But if I go in now here, point of interest component, and we add maybe, I don't know, maybe a bag. Here, text icon bag. Save this and we give it a color. Maybe we make it very, very, very pink or violet. Now we save, compile, we go back. And now as you can see on the minimap here, we have a pink bag on the minimap that shows us, okay, here's something. Okay, it's easy as that. You just need to add this and it will show up on the minimap. Okay, we can do the same thing here. We just open it and we say here add component, point of interest, and we don't change anything. We just leave it like this. And we start, and as you can see here, it will show up on the minimap. So it's a nice way to kind of like do it organically. Okay, this became just a point of interest. You can just add it with some code and it will immediately show up on the minimap. Okay, so these are these two components that comes with a widget, one for the in-world widgets and one to kind of add point of interests on the minimap. But the minimap also, like I said, I will do an extra tutorial for that. So just so you know how to actually use it. And that's that, yeah. So I hope you play around it. And oh, by the way, one last thing. These widgets that are in the world, you can find them in under base widget, implement in the folder to implement, go to utility folder. So if you want to change these, you just go in here and change the values here. Right, so if you want to exchange these graphics and behind it, you know, make it more sleek, or just in general change it, you can just do the changes in here, and they will automatically translate to the point of interest, to the detailed widget or to the small widgets you see here. Okay, and a last thing. Anything else? No. Oh, and by the way, here is HUD dependent. It's basically point of interest. That's a widget. If you want this red throbber to kind of be something different, you can just go in here, default image, and change it here. So point of interest widget, it says called, and you can just change it here. For example, if I go in now here and make it maybe green, save this. And now go back, as you can see, they should, yeah, here, they're blinking green now on the minimap. Okay, that's it for the tutorial. I hope you kind of understood how it works. It's very easy, I guess. I hope you have fun with it. And I will try to add some more functionality over the course of the next few updates. But so far it works quite well. I will also try to add some kind of like main menu maybe, or a pause menu, but it comes bit by bit as I kind of like evolve and get feedback from you guys, like what you think or what's might be missing. And don't worry to just write in the comments what you think and what you would like to see in the asset as well. See you around.